I am a Disney usher, I'm barely scraping by. My discontentment comes in many shapes and sizes. When I wake up each morning, I tell myself to...
Hello, my name is Gerry McIntyre. I'm the Associate Artistic Director of the York Theater, and I am the host of a new series called Unsung, where I have conversation with BIPOC artists, people behind the scenes, composers, lyricists, playwrights, designers, hair and makeup people, ushers, stagehand. All of these and more will get a chance to have their stories told. My first guest on Unsung, I'm so honored that he's here. He's a composer, a playwright, and a lyricist. Wait a minute, I have to put my glasses on because I have to read the long list of his accolades, which are very impressive. Okay. He won the Pulitzer Prize for Drama in 2020, the New York Drama Critics Circle Award 2020, the Outer Critics Circle Award 2020, 6 honors, the 2019 Hull Warner Award, the Obie Award 2020 for playwriting, 2020 Off-Broadway Alliance Award, the Drama Desk Award 2020, Outstanding Musical Book and Lyrics, the Lambda Literary Award for LGBTQ Drama, the inaugural Antonio Award, Best Book, Frederick Lowe Award for Dramatic Composition, 2019 Whiting Award in Drama, I'm on the second page right now, the Helen Merrill Award for Playwriting, 2021 Wyndham Campbell Prize. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my first guest, Michael R. Jackson. Hello, my friend.
Hi, Gerry. How are you?
I'm so good. My God. How do you feel with all that just love and accolades? How do you feel?
It feels really nice and like sort of validation of a long journey.
Yeah. I can only imagine. It's like when I was reading and just doing all this research on you, it's just like, it's wild how like people just gave you a lot of love and you deserve it. It's so great, my friend. So great. Where are you today? Where are you right now?
I am currently at the Standard Hotel in the Meatpacking District. I decided to give myself a little staycation.
Oh, fantastic. And where were you during the pandemic? Were you just...
I was just in my apartment uptown in Washington Heights for most of it.
And you were just sitting home winning awards. It's like...
that's one way to look at
it. Jim Morgan, our artistic director, said that you did something at the York.
Years ago, I was one of the Neo artists.
Oh, okay.
Neo, I think that's what it was called, Neo, I think.
Wow. And how long ago was that?
That was like, I want to say 2015, maybe.
Oh, wow. That's great. So I want to talk about Strange Loop. I want to start at the beginning. Tell me how it all started.
Well, I started working on A Strange Loop when I was about 22 years old. It wasn't a musical in the beginning. It was just a monologue, and it had a different title. I was still just about to graduate from undergrad at NYU, and I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. And I had this playwriting degree, and I just sort of need to get some things out. So I just wrote this long monologue, thinly veiled personal monologue called "Why I Can't Get Work." That was just about a young Black gay man walking around New York and wondering why life was so terrible.
Huh.
And it just sort of, that was what it was in the beginning, just this monologue. And then from there, I ended up deciding to go back to school. I went to NYU again for musical theater writing. And I went in as a book writer and aspiring lyricist. And during the course of the first year, I learned how to write lyrics, which then gave sort of musical impulses that I'd been carrying since I was a kid, playing piano and singing in choirs, somewhere to go. And so then I just so happened to get an assignment from one of my teachers saying, if you're a lyricist who's never written music or a composer who's never written lyrics, try it. And so I decided to try writing my own song. And so the song that came out of that was a song called Memory Song, which would end up going into A Strange Loop, though at the time it was just a standalone, thinly veiled personal, like a personal singer-songwriter kind of song. And it went over really well in my class, and I was encouraged to continue writing my own music, even though for my thesis project for the second year, I was going to be paired with a composer. So I kept on writing songs just for me. And then over time, people came to sort of recognize me as a composer. And the songs tended to be really personal songs. And some of them started to sort of speak to the monologue that I had written as an undergrad. And so then a director that I had been working on some short plays with had got this opportunity for me to present some stuff at Ars Nova in New York. And then we had been working together to put some of the songs into the monologue. And then that started to turn into something else called Fast Food Town. And then I did a one-man performance of that show at Ars Nova in like 2006. And then like 20 people probably showed up and like 2 people walked out in the middle of it. And I came out of that sort of like, I learned something from doing this, but I don't want this to be a one-man show. I wanted it to be like a proper musical. And so then I started working with the director to just on hashing out the book of it with the Playwrights Realm, which was just starting at the time. And from there, we did like a long process of development that culminated in the reading of just the book with some actors. And then from there, I ended up parting ways with that director who got sort of busy. And then I did a reading of The Lark like the next year or some months later. And then that director who I was working with got busy. And then I called up my friend Stephen Brackett, who had directed some concerts of mine that I had been doing, because I was doing concerts in the midst of all of this. Right. And some of the songs that were in the show I would do in these concerts. And Stephen had seen a performance of one of those songs, which was a song on the show called Periodically, that John Andrew Morrison had been singing since the very beginning when I wrote it. He's like, to this day, he's one of 2 people who's ever sung that song. And he was very moved by the concept of John Andrew playing this mother character. And so then I said, hey, Stephen, I want to do a reading of this show with the music because I had only ever done the book. Would you consider directing it? And so then he was like, sure. So he read the script as it existed then. And then he said, thinking about having seen John Andrew sing these songs that he had directed him in the concert, he was like, what if we cast this with all Black queer folks in the reading? And because that's not how I had been doing it prior to that in the book only version. But when he said that, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense, because it was sort of implicit in the text. And so they did a reading in 2012 with that concept, and I sort of started writing toward it. And it just was still, the show was still rough and needed a lot of work, but the concept really was something. And so we, and then I put it away for a couple of years because I didn't have any other developmental opportunities after that. And then Shakina Nafak approached me in like 2015 to say that she was starting the Musical Theater Factory. And she wanted to know, did I have anything that I wanted to work on? And so I said, well, I've had the show that I've been working on and off for many years. So I brought it into the writers group, and then I got some feedback, and then Shakina thought that I needed to have I need to just do it, work on it. So then they gave us some space. I called Stephen up, I cast it, I handpicked everyone who was in it, and we did a 2-week process of just working on the show. And then from there, that was sort of when the momentum kind of started to go for the show, where people started to become aware of it and me. And so Playwrights Horizon started tracking the piece. And then the next year, and I did a couple small little iterations of it or whatever, or excerpts. And then Jen Tepper approached me to ask if I wanted to do a concert version of the show at 54 Below. And that 54 Below would subsidize the concert, so I didn't have to pay for it, which I was like such a prohibitive cost at that time for me. And so we did a controversion, and that was like when the show really, people were like, oh, something's up with this show. And then Playwrights Horizon scheduled a reading of it. We did that reading at Playwrights Horizon's at first reading for the artistic director on November 11th, 2016, which was 4 days after Trump was elected. And that ended up, I think, being really significant because the energy in the room was like so dark. And I don't think knew what they were coming to see. And then we did the show, and the show, having seen the show, you know what it is. And it just sort of counteracted the sort of negative energy in the room. And then from there, my commercial producer, Barbara Whitman, sort of came up to my then agent and was like, this piece terrifies me and challenges me, and I want to help it out. And so she ended up partnering with Page 73 Productions, and Mike Walkup, who's artistic director, and they sort of brought a kind of uptown, downtown partnership, because Page 73's mission statement is to help writers get their first off-Broadway productions, and they normally produce them at like the New Ohio Theater, but they had never done any musicals before, because musicals are a little bit more expensive than what they can do. But with Barbara's help and Mike's help, like they were able to, we did another industry reading like a couple of months later, and then that's when Playwrights Horizons made an offer on it, and then a year later we did the show.
Oh, my God.
So that's from like 2002 to 2019.
Wow, that is a long. But I guess that's the time for a journey to get, for a musical to get from the page to the stage. I assume, right?
Yeah.
Mike,
I mean, all of them take that long, but mine did.
Yours did. No, who at Playwrights? Who was the artistic director? Who like shepherded you?
Tim Sanford, who's now he's retired, but it was him. I love him.
Oh my God! And that cast, the fact that they the cast are all queer and delicious, is what I call them, and they're I know
had been with the project since that Musical Theater Factory reading, and so that was also part of it that I don't know that everybody totally grasped on that. It was that part of, I think, the reason why the show popped was because the people who were doing it, for the most part, had been developing it and living inside of it for like, some of them since John Andrew had been singing songs from the show since 2008. And you know what I mean? And like Jason Beasley had done that first reading where we cast it in that way in 2012. So it was like they all brought like themselves to it, which was part of the gig of it, is that you kind of really bring yourself. You don't bring like your conservatory training to this. It like doesn't work if you're just like a professional actor, just what's my part. You have to bring something of yourself to this particular piece.
Oh yeah, I mean, I know Jason, and I know James, and I know Larry. So they invited me to see the show, and I had no idea. So when this beautiful cast comes on stage, I'm like, I felt at home. It was it was so much fun to just revel in this, because you don't see a cast like that,
right,
off Broadway or on Broadway. I was like, get a little gag, like, oh okay, I see how we're gonna do this. I'm gonna show like this is the opening. It's from Playwrights.
I just long for the days when musicals were quieter and more centered around the lives and concerns of civilized property-owning adults.
I am a Disney usher, I'm barely scraping by. My discontentment comes in many shapes and sizes. When I wake up each morning, I tell myself to try. I tell myself that I will make no compromises.
You write musicals?
Yeah.
Awesome. Have you seen Hamilton?
We want to know what's going on in New York.
Excuse me.
It's your daily self-loathing. Look, I had some time to kill. I thought I'd stop by to remind you just how truly worthless you are.
Cause after what me and your dad went through to send your black booty to NYU, it appears you'd be just running around and without without any direction.
Snagging a man is like finding affordable housing in this town. There's a long wait list and the landlords discriminate, okay? Each time I try to chart my course, wild horses throw me off by force.
I don't think you're being totally stupid. I do think you might be overcomplicating.
The same old story, lurching after glory.
I'm not gonna stop asking until I get an answer, son.
And I fall short. I want you to like my writing, my music, this show.
Blackness, queerness, fighting back to fill this cis and all white space
With a portrait of a portrait of a portrait of a black queer face
and a choir full of black queer voices, treble clef,
And also bass
that are casting spells to conjure up a
big black and queer ass American Broadway.
Big black and queer as American Broadway.
Big black and queer ass American Broadway.
Big black and queer as
American Broadway. Big black and queer ass American Broadway. Show.
Now, how you like them apples?
Of course, James Jackson. He's just a mess.
James has that. He just has that auntie touch.
Oh my God. We did a horrible show together. We did a Whistle Down the Wind, a tour together, and he was my savior. It was horrible. Michael, is this about you? Is it story about you or based on you?
I always say that the show is, you could either call it self-referential or you could call it emotionally autobiographical. It's not a strictly autobiographical in the sense of like, and then this happened, and then this happened, and this happened. Like, I drew from personal experience to write it, but it's a true mix of fact and fiction.
Oh, where did you grow up?
Detroit, Michigan.
And was your mother West Indian, like in the show?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay. because I grew up and I was 300 pounds, and the kids used to call me Fat Albert and Rerun, and my mother was West Indian. So when I saw the show, I was like, was he watching my life? Like, because I know.
No, I mean, the show is like a real sort of, it's a kind of almost a diasporic sort of mix of bodies, and it's like I wanted a real spectrum of blackness within the queerness of it. Like I wanted like all different kinds of black in it.
Right.
So yeah.
Now, did your parents were they musical at all? Were they like your mom? Anybody in show business? How did you end up?
Nobody in my family's in show business, but I do come from like a pretty musical family. My parents are not musicians or anything, but like my aunt is a classically trained flautist, and my uncle who passed away was like a PhD in like, I want to say music education, I think it was, and like lots of singing and musicians in my family.
Awesome. Now, did you have a piano in the house and you just kept playing the piano? Your brother's like,
yeah, we had this old 1973 Baldwin upright piano that I played piano on from age 8 on through high school.
And that's how the whole thing started.
It's still there. It's still in my parents' house. Yeah,
that's awesome.
It has been tuned in probably 20 years.
Well, you could do that. Did you go like? What was your like musical background? Like, you know, when I was growing up, my mother took me to see Chorus Line, the first show that she talked. You know, and I was like this. You know, yeah, I saw it. I was like, it was over. So, what did you have that experience when you were growing?
So I grew up doing musicals as a kid, like as a preteen, and then, but also my mom and I used to go and see shows together. So like, because sometimes things would come through Detroit at like the Fisher Theater or the Detroit Opera House or whatever, or Masonic Temple. But then one time when I was in 7th or 8th grade, my mom let me skip school on a Friday, and her and my grandmother went to Toronto, and we saw the 1994 touring revival of Showboat that Hal Prince directed. And we saw that, and we saw Phantom of the Opera, and I like flipped for Showboat. Like it was like, I just had no idea that musicals could be that big and epic and just everything. And I loved it. And Phantom of the Opera, I remember my grandmother fell asleep and I didn't understand what was going on, but I liked listening to it. Like I liked the sound of it, but I like the story of it, like did not appeal to me as like a teenager. But then I bought the cast album and I wore it out. But Showboat for me was like perfect. Like it was just like, I like loved it so much. And I have like a different point of view about it as an adult, but like I still like what Hal Prince did with that production is just like unparalleled as far as I'm concerned.
Oh my God, it was so great. And Susan Stroman, I think, choreographed it, right? And it was...
I think you're right. I can't remember, but that's probably right.
Yeah, I remember seeing it. I remember it was so long, but I wasn't mad at the journey. It was like almost 3 hours.
I was just like, I was so like, I never wanted it to end. Like I wanted to be like Old Man River forever. Like but it was also because like I grew up watching soap operas. So like I was accustomed to watching stories that never ended. So like it could go on forever. Like I loved it. Like, and it just was so epic. And the score, all that music and that like survey of music through the times, like when they did that montage from like the 20s to like the 30s, like I just was flipped. I just thought it was so great.
Oh my God. I mean, oh my God, it's so Ryan's Hope, All My Children. Mm-hmm. That was my jam.
Days of Our Lives, Another World, Santa Barbara, and then I jumped to Guiding Light and One Life to Live. I also watch all of them. I mean, at one point or another, I watch all of them.
Right, I do, because I remember being home, like my mother was working and she was a nurse, so that I'd just come home after school and just sit in front of the TV and watch soap operas all day long. I read up that were you trying to write for a soap opera?
That was why I went to NYU. It was my dream was to write for soap operas. So I interned at All My Children in the production office, and I interned at ABC Daytime for the network. And right before, when I got into grad school, I had applied for a job at CBS Daytime. And if I had gotten that job, I would not have gone to NYU musical theater writing, and I would not be writing musicals today.
Oh my God! Well, thank God.
I was about my stories.
But
I also had done a youth marketing consultant job for ABC Daytime in between college and grad school, where I watched soap operas every day, and I got paid like $600 a week to watch ABC Daytime, which was like a dream job at the time.
So you were just like the testing the thing if it was good, like you were the audience.
It was actually, I realized after the fact that it was actually bad that I did that job, because it was at a time when the network was like trying to figure out, how do we get the young people? We got to change the demographics. And so they just would hire like 21-year-olds to watch and be like, I don't like this, I don't like that, so that they could then go to the shows and be like, kids don't like Erica's storyline, or they don't, but I didn't realize that that's what they were doing at the time. And I think that actually contributed to the part of the sort of the erosion of the shows later. That's just my theory. I was a very serious soap watcher, so I didn't give them any bad feedback like that, but I know that that's what they did with that data.
So you, after that, you didn't get that job, so you were like, okay, now I'm going to go back to school?
So then, I didn't get that job, but I did get into the school. I did both at the same time. I remember, I found out I had gotten into grad school, and then I found out I had gotten like an interview for this job at CBS Daytime. And so then I went and interviewed for it, and then they were like, okay, why don't you they wanted me to go on their website and like do a recap of an episode, because that would have been part of my job, was putting the recaps online. And I purposely, but I think something in me was just sort of like more excited about grad school. Like something happened, like I didn't put as much effort into trying to do the recap.
Yeah.
And I didn't get the job. And so I just like, oh, well, I guess I'll go to grad school.
Wow. I mean, how was grad school? I mean, I went to Montclair. I went to 4 years of school, and my experience was not. I don't know about you, but the people they didn't get me. You know, it was like
My grad school experience was extremely positive, and it was really pivotal because it was there. All the teachers there were like really helped nurture my voice, and like they appreciated that I was sort of coming at musical theater from like a little left of center, and they just were like, keep going, keep going, keep going. And then that one teacher who was like, if you're a lyricist who's never written music, go for it. If he hadn't done that, I would have written a song. And if I hadn't written the song, I wouldn't have continued writing the songs. So like, I owe everything to the program in a way because the teachers there for me really encouraged and nurtured my voice and my exploration, my artistic exploration.
That's fantastic. That's so great. I mean,
my undergrad experience was different. Undergrad was like, I call those like the lost years. I mean, I learned some basics here and there, but that was where I felt like they don't get me. Which is part of the reason why I wanted to go back to school and like do something else. So.
Oh my God. That, those 4 years, the reason I loved about going to school was that I got to grow up as a person. But
I think that also happened a little bit for me as well.
Now in this journey, in this lovely journey of yours, did you find that it was harder to be a Black man doing this? How was that journey for you? The racism, I was fortunate enough that I feel that I had more racism outside the world than inside show business. How was that journey for you?
This is always hard for me to talk about because it's not like there weren't moments when there were racialized things that might happen. Like when I was in undergrad, for example, Kenneth Lonergan, who wrote the This Is Our Youth and Lobby Hero, he did a master class in my undergrad, and I got into it. And I was writing a play at the time that was like it wasn't very good. Like I can say that very objectively, but I was learning, I was a student. And it was like, but it was a Black play. Like it was like, I wrote 2 Black characters who had a Southern background and they spoke in a dialect and all the whole bit. And like, I brought my pages into class because he would have a thing where he would bring actors in to read the pages. And so of course, he brought in 2 white actors to read everybody's pages because the assumption was that either everyone would be white or that the white character the white characters to be able to read whatever was on a page. And so I remember having this moment of like listening to these 2 actors who for all intents and purposes were like Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson. Like I basically listened to Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson like in dialect, like these 2 Black characters, which for me was not traumatic. It was funny. It was like but like I also could see the room not having a vocabulary to talk about what was wrong, and he didn't have it either. And so it was sort of like there was no feedback that could be given. It was like a non-educational experience, except I learned something from that. But so like that technically is racism, but it wasn't like I felt like I learned what I need to learn about that. I was like, oh, there's a lot of white assumptions built into all of this, but I'm not gonna feed into that. I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing. Yeah. But like, when I was in grad school, I wrote some of everything. And it was almost always like came from a place of Blackness, and it was very appreciated and nurtured when I was in grad school. So like, and then like, obviously the industry in the theater is what it is, but I saw that, and like, sometimes it would be frustrating, but like, I had been writing since I was like 11. Do you know what I mean? And like, I had been working with like writing teachers all through high school. Like I was still learning, but like I had a very strong constitution. Yeah. And so like, it was very hard to like make me feel racially mistreated because I was kind of like, I'm still gonna do whatever I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
And so I just kept doing that, no matter what was happening.
That's I mean, so it gave you that strength to do all this stuff. And the best part to me is like that you were prepared.
Right.
You know
But what I wasn't prepared for was, so the thing about it is that like people often ask me about like racism in the theater or whatever. The truth of it is that like what I wasn't prepared for was when I graduated and like I finally had to get a real job and had to deal with racism in the workplace. That's what I wasn't ready for. And that was like a real crucible and trial by fire. And so that was like 5-6 years of my life working at this advertising agency and then working at this educational nonprofit as an executive assistant. And dealing with like white people and capitalism and all this stuff bearing down on me every day and not knowing how to like deal with it because my livelihood was attached to it. And so, but when I came out of that and like was fortunate enough to have these theatrical opportunities, I was sort of like, oh, no one is going to mistreat me in the theater. I know I know how to conduct myself, and like I know what I will stand for and I know what I won't stand for. Wow. So the theater racism part for me has not been the most usual thing because I had gone through like just being a grown-ass man working a job and dealing with the racism of that.
You should go over there and just bring them the Pulitzer Prize and just say.
Well, I mean, I don't care. I mean, the funny thing about it is like a lot of them came and saw the show.
Did they really?
A lot of them, not like my old bosses, like who were the ones I really would have liked to have seen it.
Yeah.
But like a lot of people, like a lot of those people, it's so funny because I'm friendly with a lot of them. Like, it's so funny, like when they all came and saw the show and all they knew me as was like this little clerk in a, back office giving them their expense check. And so it was nice to have that sort of full circle moment with one of them where they're like, yeah, I was telling you all along that I was a real person and that I had a point of view.
Wow.
And now you see.
Now you see. Was it like, watching the show, I was, looking at the people around me. And then, in the show, there's some like, I would say graphic for, normal audiences, but not graphic for me. But, I saw people like, were people generally just welcoming, or were they squirming or fiddling?
I think there was a wide range of responses, which I think is a great thing. That's the point. Like if everyone reacted exactly the same way, I would think that I was doing something wrong. And that was part of how we try to position the show, is that everyone can meet this material wherever they are. And whatever you feel is what you feel.
Yeah.
I used to go I didn't always watch the show. I would sometimes come right as it was ending so I could see what the audience response was. And I would often ask, and they would come up to me and they'd talk to me. And I'd often ask people, I said, did you clap or did you not clap during AIDS is God's Punishment? And it wasn't a judgment, but I wanted to know, how did you feel in that moment when you were asked to clap for that? Did you want to? Did you stop? Did it make you uncomfortable? Did it not make you uncomfortable? Did you get it? Did you not get and for me, that was part of the point, because that's what it's like.
Right.
Like when you grow up in like a Black religious experience like that and you're gay, that's what it feels like. It's like, AIDS is God's punishment. It's like, it sounds good, but it feels bad.
Because you're clapping on the 1 and 3. That's
on the 1 and the 3, So,
oh my God, yes. Listen, 12 years of Catholic school. I was an altar boy and a Boy Scout. Lord. Oh my God. So what I want to know, what do you do? Do you have a process? Do you go, I'm gonna write the song for Earth, I'm gonna write the book? Is there a process that you go through to do it, or you just go whatever? How it happens?
Strange Loop, it was a very organic process because I didn't know what I was doing. Like I wrote this monologue, and then I wrote Memory Song, and then I wrote like some other songs, and then I started it was changing and looping. Like the show sort of, the process of making the show kind of was the show. Like it was it was just like experience being transmitted into a scene, being transmitted into a song. Oh, not that song, this song. Like, and it just was building, making these little building blocks within this loop, within a loop, within a loop. That's that process. For other shows are not that. So like my next show is called White Girl in Danger, and that one has a very different process because of the source material for it and like the sort of aims behind why it exists.
Oh, can you tell us about that? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so White Girl in Danger, so as I mentioned, I grew up on soap operas and Lifetime movies and melodrama, and I wanted to be a soap opera writer. And so I had this weird idea many years ago of what if I just did a kind of musical version of like a silly Lifetime movie. And the title that came to mind will be called White Girl in Danger. Because those movies always had those kind of titles. She stood alone. She fought by herself. She cried no. Like Mother Message with Danger, etc. And so I had this idea for a musical called White Girl in Danger, because like to me, White Girl in Danger was the distillation of what all of those movies were.
Yeah.
But then this conversation about, you know, diversity, equity, inclusion, representation, or whatever started happening everywhere, but in the theater world in particular. And suddenly my thoughts about that started to kind of float over to this like Lifetime movie soap opera musical. And that turned into this idea that is set in in a soap opera town, a fictional soap opera town called All White. And in All White, there are white characters who run around and they have their crazy, glamorous, dangerous lives, right? And there's another race and class of people called the Black Round. And the Black Round are like the Black characters who are sort of relegated to slavery and police violence stories and are kind of day players in the all white people's lives. And then one of the Black Round is this girl named Keisha, who's a plucky sort of heroine who decides that she has what it takes to tell her own all-white story. So she begs the writer of the universe to please let her be a protagonist. And so he sort of strikes her with lightning, and then she suddenly is usurping the storylines from the three main all-whites, Megan, Megan, and Megan, who have like the trope white girl problems. One's got an abusive boyfriend. One's got an eating disorder. One's got a mother that ignores her, and so she's into drugs and alcohol. So she starts to take that away from them, and then the story begins to revolve around her, and then that's when the killer comes, because the killer is picking off the town's all-white protagonist, and then the killer's identity is a big shocker. It's somebody you don't expect it to be. So it's just kind of a meditation on these representation, this like desire to be seen, but also this like, but just a big hoot of a whodunit and soap opera intrigue and the whole all the mechanisms that happen on soap operas, like people being recast and like, you know, just the storylines you always see, people coming back from the dead and amnesia and things like that.
Oh my God. How far are you along in it? Where are you in?
Pretty far. I've been developing it with the Vineyard Theater for the last couple of years. And I have a whole draft. I'm done. I'm working on a rewrite of it right now.
That's awesome. That's so great. Oh my God, Michael, you're so amazing. I'm just so glad to talk to you. What's going to happen with the Strange Loop when all of this pandemic is over?
Well, we were scheduled to go to DC to the Woolly Mammoth Theater. We're hopeful will still happen in the fall. So we just sort of have to make sure that everything, you know, lines up with the rest of the world. But right now the fall seems to be when we're gonna do the show in DC.
Oh my God! I just thought immediately that it was going to open at the Booth Theater. That was my hope, that it would just like magic,
you know, from your lips to whatever theater owner's ears.
Oh, like what do you
theater owner? I guess.
What do you miss the most, Michael, about live theater? Like what's the
surprises? The surprises. Like, so really surprises you. Like just watching the trailer there, I was sort of got a little emotional. Just like I loved the show. Like I loved watching people watch it. I loved the I loved, like, some people felt attacked when they watched it. Some people felt seen, and I loved it. I love that. That, like, that's what it, to me, that's what theater should do. So I miss that.
Wow. Yeah, I when I was watching it too, I missed that space, because that's where we did the original Once on the Silence. So, you know, all that stuff is coming up, a lot of that stuff. Oh my God. So I'm gonna show a clip of you singing Memory Song.
"5'4", high school gym, sneaking a cupcake. These are my memories, these are my memories. Shooting hoops off the rim, slow on the uptake. These are my memories, these are my memories. After gym, the locker room, my eyes photographing. Naked me, measures in and 4.5 inches. These are my memories, these are my memories. Of one lone black gay boy I knew who chose to turn his back on the Lord. One lone black gay boy I knew who chose to turn his back on the Lord. Guilt and shame, Jesus' name, church every Sunday. These are my memories, these are my memories. Eat his body, drink his blood, communion buffet. These are my memories, sweet sour memories. After church we're driving home to Radio Crackle. Jazz music or Motown blues and skin is a shackle. For one lone black gay boy I knew who chose to turn his back on the Lord. One lone black gay boy I knew who chose to turn his back on the Lord. These are my memories, sweet sour memories. This is my history, this is my mystery. Mom is napping on the couch and Dad cuts the grass while I watch TV all day long, young and the restless. Like one lone black gay boy I knew who chose to turn his back on the Lord. One lone black gay boy I knew who chose to turn his back on the Lord. Dad is drunk and on the couch and Mom eats a pork chop. Daily bread meal, daily treadmill, won't ever stop. One lone black gay boy I knew who chose to turn his back on the Lord. One lone black gay boy I knew who chose to turn his back on the Lord. I am lying on the couch, I dream that I'm flying, flapping both my wings so hard to keep me from dying, with the crown of God's forsaken thorns on my head. Like all those black gay boys I knew who chose to go on back to the Lord. All those black gay boys I knew who chose to go on back to the Lord. All those black gay boys I knew who chose to go on back to the Lord. And one lone black gay boy I knew who chose to turn his back on the Lord. Instead,
Just, I don't know. It wells me up. It's so good. It's just so good and so earnest and so beautiful. Thank you so much. Wow, I'm messy. Thank you so much. I can't thank you enough for being my first guest, and enjoy your staycation in the Standard. And I'll be watching you and haunting you and chasing you from now on.
All right.
Thank you so much, Michael. I appreciate it.
For having me.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Right. Be well.
Oh, wasn't that just amazing? Oh my God. Thank you so much for tuning in. The first episode of Unsung. We'll be back next month. And I say we, I mean me. I'll be back next month. I want to thank the York staff, and especially Fiona Sweeney for pushing the buttons and helping me through my computer illiteracy. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's free for you and it helps us. And if you'd like to donate to our flood fund, you can go to yorktheater.org, and it's theater the old way, R-E. Thank you so much, and have a great night, and I'll see you soon.
She doesn't care if she ruffles any feathers. In fact, that is her MO.